have a model which can invent new representations, and within these representations there are efficient solutions. So it was not also precisely a solution, because it was not clear how to efficiently search for representations, but at least it showed that there is a straightforward connection between universal methods and narrow methods.
Let me. So there's a lot of complex stuff packed in there. So just for you, Lisa, I think some aspects of this journey Alexey has recounted are parallel in many AI researchers in both my generation and Alexey's. He's a bit younger than me. So I remember Shane Legg, who went on to co-found Google DeepMind, when he was working for me when he was in his early 20s, which was in the late 1990s, around the year 2000. I mean, we were working together on trying to build AGI using the WebMind system I had then, which was a little bit like OpenCog, but much more naive in various ways. But there was a large knowledge graph and various different AI algorithms working together on it. And Shane, he sort of became obsessed with the idea of having a very elegant, simple mathematical description of general intelligence. He went on to do his PhD with Marcus Hutter in Switzerland. And he was working with Marcus on stuff related to what Marcus called universal AI, which is sort of a very compact, simple, elegant way to achieve very advanced general intelligence, which has the downside in its pure form, it would take an infinitely powerful computer to run. And then you work out approximations that can be almost totally generally intelligent, running on merely an impossibly large amount of computer rather than infinitely much computer, right? So these are like mathematically theoretical AGIs that kind of before, to put it very, very loosely, like before taking a single action, they look at all possible ways of understanding the world and all possible ways of generating that action and try to choose the best one and then do it. So like you can't really do that in practice, giving feasible resources, but it's sort of interesting mathematically to see like how would you do general intelligence if you did have infinitely much resources. And one of the lessons is that it becomes pretty simple, which teaches you that a lot of the complexity and mess of making real world general intelligence systems is about how do you deal with the fact that you don't have infinitely much resources, right? You have a limited amount of energy, you have a limited amount of time, you have a limited amount of space, right? So then Shane went through that journey. He wrote his PhD on aspects of universal AI with Marcus Hutter, who's the great genius of universal AI, as his advisor. Then he sort of switched gears and he was like, well, this is really beautiful math, but I don't see how to operationalize it. So let's study neuroscience instead. And then he studied neuroscience and he hooked up with Demis Hassabis and they started Google DeepMind and started building deep neural nets and deep reinforcement learning systems. And at the same time, though, DeepMind has hired Marcus Hutter now, Shane's former advisor, and has hired a whole bunch of PhD students who did their PhDs on universal AI. So there's sort of this tension between like building practical systems, doing real things, maybe brain inspired, maybe inspired by, algorithms that are used for narrow AI, and then trying to work from very general models and understandings of super powerful AGI that are hard to actually build. And trying to make these meet in the middle somewhere is an interesting challenge. And I mean, I confronted that in my own way. I mean, when I was in the 1980s thinking through AGI, I basically invented my own version of universal AI with more breadth but less mathematical rigor than what Marcus Hutter later came up with. But it was a similar idea, like if you don't have to deal with resource restrictions, you can make an AGI pretty simply by just having the AGI do brute force search of all possible ways of understanding it and doing things. And then you somehow want to approximate that process in some way that works in reality. You can try to understand the brain and things you could build on a computer as approximations of this universal process. So this tension, I think, underlies a lot of people who are deeply thinking about AGI. Now, I think a lot of younger researchers who are even younger than Alexey haven't gone through that process because they've grown up in an era when it's so easy to spin up Python scripts to do really cool things on a lot of processors and data sets. So there's more younger researchers, I think, who are just approaching AGI by saying, okay, this is the cool stuff we can do now. How can we extend? How can we generalize and build onto this? I think growing up in an era where computers sucked worse, which is very true for me and still somewhat true for Alexey, it made you gravitate more toward theoretical approaches because you couldn't do as much on the computers at that time, and that in a way deepens one's thinking about AGI. Just the worse the computers are, the more you have to think, the more you have to do math and philosophy before you start coding, right? Whereas the computers are so good, in a way you start thinking, well, the hell with that. Let's just hack stuff.